One way to be miserable is to invest badly, either in a relationship, a friendship, a job, or maybe on the stock market. Let's use the stock market as our example. Consider this situation. You bought a stock at $5 a share, and it's now trading at $300 a share. Do you hold it or do you sell it? This question has been on a number of people's minds lately as the stock market has had some of its periodic surges and collapses. In January, GameStop shares went from under $5 a share to over $450 a share in just a few weeks. A person who invested $1,000 at the beginning of this run might have been sitting on over $80,000 just a little bit later on. I was watching a news piece on one of these guys. His stock was worth over $1 million, having invested only a few thousand. In his job, he made $35,000 a year. And the interviewer asked him whether he was going to sell, and he said he was going to wait and see. The interviewer never asked the question that I would have asked in a moment. See what? The situation isn't confined to a single rush on a single stock in a single month. It's a feature of all investing, and it appears as well in other areas of our life. And it relates to an example described by Daniel Kahneman over 40 years ago. Kahneman, you might know, is the only psychologist ever to have won the Nobel Prize for economics. And he's the author of Thinking Fast and Slow. So let me lead you through this example. I'm going to describe the same situation twice, and your job is to monitor how you feel as you consider each of these variations. Do you want to move one way or the other? So let's say that you've bought a $100 ticket for a concert that you really want to see. You've gone to dinner, and then you took a cab over to the concert hall with the ticket and $200 in your wallet. You get to the door, you look in your wallet, and the ticket isn't there. You've lost it, and there's no time to go back to the restaurant to find where it fell out. So here's the question. Do you spend another $100 to buy a new ticket? Notice the degree to which you want to buy a new ticket and the degree to which you don't want to spend another $100 on a ticket. Now we're going to do exactly the same example again. There is a $100 concert that you really want to see. You've gone to dinner, and then you took a cab over to the concert hall with $300 in your wallet, planning to buy the ticket when you got there. You open your wallet, and there's only $200 in it. You've lost $100, and there's no time to go back to the restaurant to find where it fell out. So you know the question. Do you buy a ticket to this concert anyway? The key to this scenario is whether you feel any different in one situation or the other. And one way to look at it is the simple question of whether you buy a ticket or not in the two situations. A somewhat more complicated way is to gauge your inclination to buy a ticket or not. Now, maybe you think you'd buy a ticket either way, or you'd give up and go home either way. But maybe the strength of your decision would vary. Now, what is typically found with this example is that if you lost a ticket, you're less likely to spend another $100 to buy another ticket. If, on the other hand, you lost a $100 bill, you're more likely to go to the concert anyway. And maybe that seems perfectly sensible to you. But it really isn't. And I'll tell you why. Maybe you can see it. In the first situation, you have $300 in your wallet, $200 in cash, and $100 in the form of a ticket. The ticket is basically just a different currency. But given that you plan to go to the concert, it's basically the same as a $100 bill. In the second situation, you also have $300 in your wallet. No difference. It's just that all 300 is in cash and 100 of it has yet to be converted to that other currency, a ticket. So when the first situation happens, you've lost $100. And in the second situation, you've lost $100. It's exactly the same thing. There's no difference. But people react as if there was a difference. Why do we do this? The explanation lies in the way that we describe the situation to ourselves. When we lose a ticket, we think of that money as cash that we have spent on the concert, which we decided was worth $100. If we buy a new ticket, then we will have spent $200 on this concert. And we wanted to see it, but not for $200. Is it worth $200? No. I'll just head home instead. When we lose $100 cash on the way to the concert hall, we tend to see that as completely unrelated to the concert. So if we buy a $100 ticket, we think of ourselves as having spent $100 on the concert. And as a completely separate side incident, we also lost $100 on the street somewhere. So what has this got to do with stock trading? Well, let's say that you've invested $10,000 in Widget Incorporated, and the stock has gone up 100 times. So it's now worth $1 million. That stock has been doing really well. Maybe it's going to continue to go up, or maybe it will begin to fall. What do you do? Keep it or sell it? Think about yourself in that situation. What would you do? Keep it and hope that it goes up a little more, or sell it and get all of that money? Sure thing or a gamble? Well, think of that as one variation of the situation, and I will give you another variation. Widget Incorporated, which you have never invested in, has recently gone up 100 times in value. So right now, it's worth vastly more than it ever has at any point in history. Now, as a completely separate thing, you just won $1 million on the lottery. So you have $1 million in cash. Would you take all of that money that you just won and invest it in Widget Incorporated stock that is currently trading higher than it's ever gone before? You can see where I'm going with this. Almost no one would gamble $1 million in cash on a stock that's just risen to absolutely crazy heights. But if they bought that stock at 10,000 and it's now gone to $1 million, the natural inclination is to hang on to it in hopes that it will go higher. But once again, it's the same situation. I'll spell it out a bit more. Imagine you've got $1 million US. Do you invest it all in this stock that's just gone crazy up? No. What if we had converted it to British pounds? Still $1 million US, but it's in a different currency. Now do you gamble all those British pounds on the stock? No? Okay. What if we exchange it for euros? No? Pesos? No? Any other currency? No? exactly the same amount of money, but just translated into those other countries' currencies, it doesn't make any difference, right? You wouldn't gamble any of those. You'd probably just take your $1 million in pesos to the bank and convert them to $1 million in dollars. What if it's in gold? Same thing. Silver? Same thing. Platinum? Same thing. Widget stocks? Oh, wait. Suddenly there's a difference. $1 million in widget stock right now is exactly the same thing as $1 million in cash. You can exchange cash for $1 million of stock, and you can exchange $1 million of stock for $1 million in cash. It's the same as converting euros to dollars. It's just a currency. But when it's stock that you're already holding, the temptation is to hang on. I didn't see what happened to that guy with the GameStop stock, but I can guess. He didn't seem to have much money. I'm guessing $1 million in stock was 80% at least of his total life accumulation of money. And when the stock crashed, he lost most of it. It's inconceivable to me that if this guy had somehow managed to scrape $1 million together and somebody said, hey, we can convert all your cash into a hugely expensive stock in this company that's higher than it's ever been, he would have said, you're crazy. Why would I do that? I'm going to keep this money for a house, for my kids' education, for my retirement fund, for the things I want in life. I'm not risking it all on some idiotic stock I've never heard of. Are you nuts? But that's exactly what he was doing. He had $1 million. This guy was a millionaire. But it was all in the currency of stock shares, in about the riskiest possible investment that everyone knew was going to evaporate. To be miserable, treat your sunk costs, your prior investment in something, as a completely different thing than if you were investing new. You'll lose money.